cuts are on the way for Hoosiers, but some say it's not enough. One of those pushing for more cuts is the national group Americans for Prosperity. Today we're talking to the Indiana State Director in an exclusive one-on-one interview, plus the controversial abortion bill making its way through the State House. Planned Parenthood opens up about what this could mean for them, and our political insiders debate on this edition of Indianapolis This Week.
From RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Good morning. Indiana lawmakers are setting the budget for the state of Indiana for the next 2 years with tax breaks. But it's not the tax break that Governor Pence wants to see. Recently, his agenda is getting a push from an outside group. The conservative lobbying group Americans for Prosperity, or AFP as they're commonly known, has been running a campaign to push for the tax reduction. Their commercials use the same music former Governor Daniels used in his campaign ads. State Republicans fired back with their own ad parody, highlighting everything they have accomplished in recent years. And many Republicans aren't sure what to make of AFP.
I doubt if they have any idea what we've done in the past. I think this is kind of the idea of the day, and it's important to them, so they're going to try to push on it.
Hopefully they realize I'm their biggest ally in the building and have been on the many things that we've worked on together over the years. So there's plenty of room for discussion, and we even have occasional disagreement with folks that we agree in principle on, and that's okay.
Joining us now is the Indiana State Director with Americans for Prosperity, Chase Downham. Mr. Downham has worked with the Indiana Chamber of Commerce and works to recruit and endorse candidates for the Indiana House and Senate. He also has close ties to the governor because he used to work for Mike Pence when he was a congressman. Welcome to the program, Mr. Downham. It's great to have you.
Yeah,
you just heard from some leading Republicans. Your group is very aggressive in what you believe in. Have you hurt or helped the cause by sort of getting these folks animated against your campaign?
Well, I'd like to think that we've helped. I mean, well, all we simply have done is encourage Hoosier taxpayers to get more involved with this issue. I guess I want to first start off by saying no one wants to take away what our General Assembly has done over the last few years. I'm very proud to be a Hoosier. I grew up in Muncie, Indiana, have 8 sisters and 2 brothers who live in this state. My wife and I live up here on the north side of Indianapolis, and we're very proud of the work that the General Assembly has achieved over the last couple of years, in particular school choice, as well as right to work. So no one is trying to take away what this General Assembly has accomplished. I think, though, in this conversation about our budget, there are significant differences in a healthy debate that needs to occur. The question that we tried to pose out there to the public, as well as Hoosier taxpayers statewide, was, in this situation where we have a very strong state budget, we have, nearly $2 billion in reserves. We are operating with a healthy surplus. There's a healthy conversation that needs to occur as to what are we going to do with these extra dollars. Are we going to grow the economy by doing what we've traditionally done in the past, which is to lower taxes, put more money back in the pockets of Hoosier taxpayers, or are we going to take a different approach that seeks to grow government spending, which we think would have an adverse effect on the economy? So good people can disagree on this issue, but we are firm that Hoosier taxpayers deserve a budget that holds the line on spending and tries to get more dollars back in the pockets of taxpayers.
So let's talk about the budget, because I think every Hoosier wants more money in their pocket, right? I mean, there's no one who would disagree with you on this Sunday morning that they want more of their dollars in their purse or their pocket.
Sure.
The legislature last week decided to begin discussing the governor's tax plan. He's not getting the full amount. So was their decision bold or was it cautious?
Well, I think it's a good first step, and we recognize that. We applaud the state Senate for this initial move towards tax relief. We think this is a good first step in what we hope will be a victory for taxpayers. And so I think we're moving in the right direction from where this conversation started.
What more do you want to see? Because the legislature has said, look, we've given the governor $500 million in a tax reduction package. We're getting rid of the inheritance tax. We're giving him all that he wants. What more do you want to see the lawmakers to really tackle?
Well, this is a very fluid situation, as you well know. I mean, we have 3 more weeks left of the legislative session. What the final budget looks like is far from determined. We are hopeful that we will continue to hold the line on spending, keep spending increases at a manageable level there, and try to get more dollars back in the pockets of taxpayers. The move that the state Senate did this week was a positive step in the right direction. If you, in particular, the inheritance tax, immediately eliminating that tax is something that we actually supported over a year ago. And so we're very happy that they include that in their budget proposal. I think, as we look at this budget a little bit more closely and as we continue this debate, we just want to make sure that folks are keeping an eye on the ball, that they continue to work on providing more tax relief to Hoosiers because...
But what more do you want? And I get
right,
it.
right.
3 weeks left. We still haven't seen jobs numbers. We don't know what the Affordable Health Care Act is going to do.
Right.
So many unknowns. But what more do you want to see from these lawmakers? Because as you point out, it's only 3 more weeks.
It's 3 more weeks, and these last 2 are probably the most important with conference committees.
So what's on the table? What do you want to see?
Well, we want to see more tax relief, quite frankly. I mean, this is a good first step. We're very happy and very we applaud that first step by the state Senate, as I said. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're holding the line on spending. Spending is still relatively high in this budget.
Do you support
it's something that we need to just have a very good handle on, I feel like.
Do you support the move to spend more on education and highway and roads? Because they made a big deal that they're going to spend more on schools and more on highway and roads. Is that a good use of state dollars?
Well, I think every budget that's been on the table right now has provided increases for schools and roads and for health care. It's really the question of how much is enough. And I think that's a debatable point. But what we want to see at the end of the day is a budget that prioritizes taxpayers and it reflects that prioritization. And I think we're getting closer there. I mean, there's no question.
How about mass transit? I mean, a lot of folks are hoping to see Indiana in 10 years lay something down, either more buses or light rail.
Right.
It looks like it's going to a study committee. That could change, but you're opposed to that.
Well, we're concerned about it. If you look at mass transit plans that have gone forward in cities and states across our country, on average, the Cato Institute had a study that found that on average, mass transit plans, in particular light rail, over the last 30 years have gone 40% over budget than originally estimated. In Charlotte alone, the light rail component of their mass transit went 130% over budget. So there's just a couple issues here. One is a potential tax increase on Hamilton as well as Marion County residents, 30% for Marion County residents on their local income tax, 18% for Hamilton County. The other issue, is really the overall cost of this plan and whether or not it's wise to move forward. There's a lot of questions about whether or not it's going to be light rail or bus rapid transit, what the expansion is going to look like. So I think this issue going to study committee makes a lot of sense because until we have some of those answers, we really should know what, I would assume the General Assembly would like to know what they're voting on prior to that going forward.
And last question in the remaining moments we have, if lawmakers don't work towards the goals of the organization, are you prepared when it's election time to launch campaigns to remind the voters of their votes?
Well, it's important to note that as an organization, we do not electioneer, we do not tell people how to vote, we do not endorse candidates. However, as we are doing in this process, we do encourage people to contact their policymakers and encourage them to do the right thing.
Chase Doudham, thank you so much with AFP. We hope you come back.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure that in the next 3 weeks we'll find out exactly where we're headed, and you'll remind us of whether you like it or not.
Sure, we'll do. Thank you.
Chase, thank you so much. One of the most controversial bills heading through the State House right now deals with abortions in Indiana. It puts more restrictions on an abortion-inducing drug. The bill could have a major impact on Planned Parenthoods across the state. We're sitting down with a representative of Planned Parenthood right after the break. An emotionally charged abortion bill has cleared a major hurdle. The House approved the bill that puts more restrictions on abortion-inducing drugs such as RU-486. RTV6 reporter Norman Cox has the latest developments.
The bill that passed the House was somewhat watered down from its earlier version, but not enough to satisfy opponents. The abortion measure requires clinics that only perform drug-induced abortions to adhere to the same physical standards as surgical clinics. Planned Parenthood says that will force it to stop abortions at its Lafayette clinic. But the bill no longer requires women to undergo an invasive ultrasound before receiving the drug. Sponsors said they are only trying to protect women.
This is a very emotionally charged issue, and I want you to understand that from my beginning, my intent was to seek out a remedy to safeguard our young women who have chosen this path. I know that the most common age to utilize a medical abortion is between the ages of 18 and 25. Because I have a 21-year-old daughter, this really hits home.
But opponents said this is the wrong issue to talk about. They said if pro-life forces want to reduce the number of abortions, they should work on other issues that would make abortions less sought after. Things like job and financial help for the poor women who use the clinics the most, and most of all, assistance with obtaining contraception.
If we're all really serious about this and we all really want to solve this problem, we should be talking about birth control. It is absolutely outrageous that we talk about abortion when we don't talk about birth control.
The bill passed 70 to 25, with several Democrats voting in favor. At the State House, I'm Norman Cox, RTV6.
Well, let's begin the discussion on this issue. Joining us now is the Vice President of Patient Services for Planned Parenthood of Indiana, Liz Carroll. Ms. Carroll, thank you for joining us. What do you make of the attempts at the State House to put more restrictions on Planned Parenthood?
Well, this is really part of a national attempt to reduce women's access to abortion, to take the focus away from the life-saving preventative services that we provide, and make it more difficult for women to have access to the care that they need.
You as an organization can't be surprised that with a supermajority at the State House, that the party in power, as part of their belief, wants to limit the services that you provide. I mean, that does not come as a surprise to you. So how do you counter that? Because it is what it is.
Well, we try and explain that we're about patient safety, that we want to see reasonable regulations, not regulations that have no reason behind them. This bill puts 34 pages of surgical abortion regulations on a facility that only provides a medication.
So then moving forward, how do you then provide the services that you believe women should have,
Right.
At the same time that the legislature may make it illegal or may put make a major restriction on it?
Right. Well, one thing, we're committed to providing services. We think we're important to the women of Indiana. What we'll be doing with the Lafayette Planned Parenthood is looking at our facility, looking at the regulations, seeing what we can do to comply, what the cost of compliance would be, and then figuring out our next steps from there.
Are you getting any feedback from your clients, the women that use the services? Are they saying we have less places to go? I mean, are you getting that kind of pushback, or are your clients going elsewhere?
Well, we've had clients concerned that the Lafayette facility will shut down, which we do not plan to close it. It will still provide preventive care services, contraception, family planning. We are concerned that there's a limited number of abortion providers in the state of Indiana, and that as you continue to limit access and overly regulate the existing providers that are trying to do the right thing and do a good job, you open the door for unsafe provision of abortion or purchase of medications over the internet.
Final question, 3 weeks left in this legislative session. What's your plan? You know what's on the agenda, you know what you're facing. What's your plan?
I think our plan is to continue to appeal to the good sense of the legislators and the governor, and talk about the fact that this is regulation that is not necessary, and then if, as it probably will, it gets signed by the governor, then we'll look at what our next steps are.
Ms. Carroll, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please come back again. We thank you so much. After the break, we'll talk about same-sex marriage and is the transit bill done for good in this session of the Indiana General Assembly. We're sitting down with our political insiders for their take on all the issues of the day after the break. Joining us are two of our political insiders, Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Jennifer Hollowell. One big headline this week, Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly changes his position on same-sex marriage and now is in favor of it. He released a statement on Friday saying, quote, "I have been thinking about my past positions and votes. In doing so, I have concluded that the right thing to do is to support marriage equality for all." Can U.S. senators change their minds? We've seen this now across the country that they are.
They've been falling like bricks over the course of the last couple of days. It's been interesting to watch, and I'm thrilled the senator has done so because I also support marriage equality. I'm a Democrat. I'm glad that he has done so. I think the nation's changing, and our politicians are reflecting that change.
I think the real problem here is that Senator Donnelly has proven that he will say anything to get elected. When he ran and asked Hoosier voters for their support, he said he was morally opposed to abortion, that he believed marriage was between a man and a woman, and that he was a strong supporter of Second Amendment rights, and he was proud to have an A rating with the NRA and their endorsement. And in just a matter of weeks, he has changed position on this. He's changed position on a variety of things. He's turned his back on Second Amendment rights. And so the problem really is he's campaigning to get elected and then turning around and changing his mind. And Hoosiers should be angry that they voted for someone because they thought he had one set of issues and he's completely changed that overnight.
Well, I don't think the election for U.S. Senate was about same-sex marriage, so I differ with you on that. And I think he is consistent in where he is with respect to the Second Amendment. In fact, I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed with where he is on the Second Amendment.
So
I think he ought to be more
that's
progressive.
not true.
Listen, I get this.
Senator Donnelly has been successful because he's been a social conservative, and now all of a sudden he isn't.
But are politicians pandering on both sides of the aisle? Because there are Republicans who've also this week changed their mind.
Yeah.
So are politicians looking for the vote? Is this a vote getter, or is this an actual philosophical switch?
Well, Senator Donnelly has 5 more years before he stands before the electorate again. So I mean, you can look at it any way you want, I suppose, but I think he's reflecting his constituents. The constituency in Indiana is moving rapidly for marriage equality, and so I think he's reflecting what's happening out there in the country.
Jennifer?
I don't take issue with folks who, over time, who are evolving or changing their mind on issues. That does happen, right? What I'm saying is Senator Donnelly is changing his mind on everything. You can't campaign in October and November touting certain things like the Second Amendment, a strong supporter of Second Amendment rights, and then turn around and as soon as political pressure comes on, now all of a sudden he supports all kinds of gun control.
The only thing he said he supported, well, he would look at is a background check. 92% of the American public
changed
for a background
his position.
check. I don't believe he did.
Another
Just a
hot
few
topic.
months ago.
Who are we going to hold responsible? Who is going to be the big loser or winner as the sequester begins to take effect? Beginning tomorrow, those folks that are on extended unemployment will see a cut in pay. We're seeing also that the Indiana National Guard will start furloughing people. The Indianapolis Housing Agency is going to furlough employees. Who are we going to blame, Republicans or Democrats?
President Obama. He has not led.
You were quick.
Well, because it's an easy answer. It's the truth. President Obama has not led. All of this could have been avoided. He is not willing to make decisions to make the cuts that are necessary and that clearly Americans want to see. And instead, he's creating all of this fake controversy and saying, oh, we're going to have to cut this and cut that, which is really going to upset people, when at the same time, agency after agency is spending and wasting tons of money on frivolous things, ridiculous things, and proposing new spending.
I think both sides bear some responsibility. Certainly, Democrats in Congress, some Democrats in Congress bear some responsibility. The president has consistently put spending cuts and tax reform on the table. Congressman Boehner refused to accept that. The last time around, the president's coming out with a budget next week that has things that are painful to his base. He's going to probably talk about Social Security cuts and Medicare cuts. Remember, in the Affordable Care Act, he had $700 billion worth of health care cuts to Medicare, and these guys ran a 2010 election against those cuts. So when they say there's not cuts, it's just not true.
Let's talk about cuts. Cuts in the issue of possibly the mass transit bill may be derailed, may go to study committee and not come to fruition. The governor learned also last week that he may not get his entire budget income tax, I should say. What's going to happen in this legislature?
Well, we still have a couple weeks left, and you know, close observers of the legislature know that the last 2 weeks are the most important couple of weeks. The real negotiation just started. The budget, I think, with particular to the income tax cut, the Senate budget had a 3% income tax cut in it, but it doesn't take place until January of 2015, so it's only the last 6 months of the biennium, so the impact on the budget is rather small. But I will say this, it seems to me really wrong-headed that in an era in Indiana where we have very low taxes, most people would agree that Governor Daniels cut to the bone and passed the bone, that when we need to be investing in pre-K, when the governor himself has said pre-K is very important, the fact that we're going to take more money off the top before we invest in pre-K doesn't make any sense.
The great news for Hoosiers, of course I don't.
Okay.
The great news for Hoosiers is that there will be tax relief, and it's provided by Republicans, because we had a Republican governor who's led on this issue, Republican House, Republican Senate, and so we will have a variety. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but we know that we will have more tax relief for Hoosiers. And, by the way, we have increased funding for education, funding full-day kindergarten, and increased funding for transportation and, you know, some road issues that really need addressed.
In the remaining seconds that we have, the president also last week, or President Obama, while introducing the California Attorney General, called her tough, brilliant, and dedicated, and went on to then say she also happens to be the best-looking Attorney General in the country. Sexist remark or overblown? Media board this week. What do you make of it?
I'm trying to figure out when it became politically incorrect to call something beautiful. To me, it's just much ado about nothing.
I'm going to say overblown.
Overblown?
Overblown.
All right, this conversation will continue in the green room. Thank you so much. Stay up to date on our political news anytime by following our insiders on our Capitol Watch blog. You can find the link on our webpage, theindychannel.com. Indianapolis This Week continues after the break. Next week on our program, we're sitting down with Indianapolis Downtown Inc. to talk about some of the big changes that could be coming to Monument Circle in the next few years, what they know about the plan, and the goals the city leaders now have for the heart of downtown now that the money is lined up to get this project moving. That's it for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.